I think I started writing plays, 30 years ago, but I don't think I made a real effort until maybe 2016 when I joined a workshop with Playwrights Project. And that began a whole journey, and that's where I ended up right now. Unfortunately, my parents, my aunts, my uncles, they rarely talked about it. It's something that they didn't really focus on. It didn't really come up in conversation very often. And when I did ask about it, they would be very short answers, nothing very critical or angry. It's just sort of something that happened in the past, but they never really, really focused on it. And it kind of made me feel like it wasn't really a big part of their experience, but I know now that that couldn't be true. So I think it was something deep down inside of them that affected them, but they didn't really know how to articulate it. Well, I lived in Japan for 18 years. The one thing I liked about Japan was that it was a very safe country. I never felt in danger while I was walking around the streets late at night. I never thought my apartment would be broken into. And I'm not quite sure why that was, or how it developed through their culture. It just was a very safe environment. The thing I like about America, though, is it's very, it's extremely diverse. So if you're an outsider in Japan, and I was, I always felt very different. But I think in America, they're more welcoming of different types of people. I think, well, as it applies to my play, I think when you say a no-win situation, I think of the Japanese Americans when they were confronted with this internment question. I think when they heard about the evacuation, they had two choices. Either they could, support it and go along with it, or they could protest it. And I think in either case, they lose. If they support the evacuation, well, they go to a camp. But if they protest it, they'll go to jail. So I think that's a very good example of a no-win situation. But I do believe they did make the best of it, because historically, I think they came across looking very dignified. They didn't really protest or cause any real disturbances. And I think in the way they handled it, it was shown that the government made a very big mistake. And it kind of proved the government wrong. I think it's very difficult. Art, it's very tricky, especially with plays. You have to have characters that the audience likes, and you have to have a story that resonates with them. I do think if it all comes together, it can be very powerful and very meaningful, but I do think it's very, very tricky. It's very difficult to achieve. I think it's more difficult for theater to implement social change compared to movies and TV, just because the audiences are much smaller for theater. But I do think the audience feels more of a connection to the people when they're live and on stage. And I do think it has a much more powerful, it's much more powerful to the people in the audience when they see people performing.